Greetings, good people. This is Artis-Wright, and you are joining us in person for the first time for season 3 of Choice Words by Freedom to Choose Schools. I am your host, Artis-Wright, and this season we wanted to take some time to meet people in person. It's nothing like having a physical conversation. Sometimes Zoom can be kind of stale or not as authentic as we want it to be. And the biggest thing about this work that we do is just making sure that we stay authentic and true and reach out and touch people and be able to have, real conversations. So in the same form and fashion of our previous podcast, Choice Words is about amplifying voices in the school choice space, primarily those school leaders and founders and entrepreneurs and community organizers and community leaders that you often don't get to hear from, mainly because they're usually in the classroom or because they're doing some other work that's important that we don't know about on the front end, but can appreciate and value on the back end. And so I'm excited to be in lovely New Orleans today with our guest, Ahmed White, who is the founder of the Rock Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. So welcome, Ahmed. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah. So Ahmed, one of the reasons why you're here is because you are part of a fellowship called the McLeod Society Fellowship. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what that is?
Well, McLeod Society Fellowship is an opportunity to learn amongst other African American leaders that are in the school spaces, whether it's micro school, private school, charter schools, such as myself, but learn about everything from communication, understanding how to advocate for children, or just for people in general that need something different. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of this, just to learn around great educators from across the country and just the plethora of people that are doing really good work that I didn't even know about. And now being able to meet them, touch them, say that I know this person, or even I knew them when, or hey, I saw you on TV. This has just been an amazing experience. And so the McLeod Fellowship has been amazing for me. It's the best.
Well, thank you. And you are, you were picked by a very large application pool. And so, kudos to you for being accepted. I think it's important that we set the stage so that our listeners will know who we're talking to, first of all. So the Rock Academy, founded in Nashville. Tell us a little about the Rock Academy.
So the Rock Academy, it's a school that's founded seriously around with the thought process of what children need most. And I say that because it's a school that we design with children. And so a lot of times in educational spaces, we design schools around children and what we think they need. But this is actually a time where we did surveys, we met with families, we did focus groups, and we said this is what children need based off of those surveys and those opportunities to meet with children and families.
And how did you do that? So what are we talking about? What age? Is there a specific age range here that we're talking about, or?
Yeah, so we're a high school.
Okay, high school.
And
okay.
So we met with high school age students from middle to high school students, and got a chance to talk to them about their experiences, but also it's deeply personal. And so one of the things I look at is when I was designing the schools, what school would have been good for my sons, and what schools would have been good for my father and my brother. And so when I think about those things and then talking to other young people in those spaces, it's exactly what I thought was needed is needed, and it was confirmation. And so that's how we came around the key design elements of belonging, flexibility, and relevance. And it's this is what we want for children. And so that was a chance to have their voices heard.
So belonging, flexibility, and relevance, and that came out of listening to them and what they had to say. Now, I find it interesting because the Rock Academy is also established off of what we call opportunity youth, which in essence means students who are usually 9th through 12th or either below or above undercredited or overage or undercredited, which meaning that a lot of them have aged out of our traditional system or for whatever reason just don't fit in the traditional kind of K through 12, 9 through 12 system. So to have those pillars, I think, is really important. Why did you choose to start a school at that age? Most of the time people will think, oh, we want to start with our younger kids, our pre-K. Like what moved you to think about starting a school at that age?
Well, my entire career, and actually I would say past my career, my life work has been working with those that have been counted out, left out, and disconnected. I always often tell people I'm designing a school for kids that have been dissed by the system, disconnected, disenfranchised, and disappointed. And so finding a way to make sure they get an educational opportunity. And as a teacher, I was a SPED teacher of those kids that are overage, undercredited. And most of my students were able to go through and really get a quality education and find their own agency to do what they need to do in life. And again, whether that's, going on to college, go to trade school, whatever that was, for them, it was like they have value too. And I think that we undervalue human beings and don't see their humanity.
Yeah, especially our youth, right?
Yeah.
Like our youth, I think a lot of times we literally undervalue them and we dismiss them. We just think, oh, y'all too young to understand. And we had another guest last season, Nestor, who has a charter school in San Antonio. Do you know Nestor?
No, but the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he also runs similar. We'll make sure to introduce you guys to each other because you guys share similar backgrounds, worlds, many traveled worlds, but still looking like babies, right? But it was interesting because we had that same conversation with him about the first thing they do is listen, which I think is so important because we often dismiss our youth and don't listen to them. But I also noticed, I wanted to, I know a little bit more about you because I've been working with you for a while. You have an interesting story to share too. And a lot of your experience, I think, is a product of what you were naming, like the fact that you have sons that you're raising. But tell us your unique experience about the sons that you were raising.
Well, I have 4 amazing sons, ranging from the ages of 28 to 12. And all of my sons came out of the foster care system. We have adopted our sons. In the process of adopting our youngest, we got him when he was 2 years old. He's now 12. And we're just, working through the court system and juvenile justice and all those wonderful things. But you couldn't tell anyone in the world that he's not my child. I was just told a couple of days ago, it was like, you guys look just alike.
I know.
And I'm like, well, yeah, we do. But those are my boys. And just thinking about what they needed when they got into our home and getting a belonging, the flexibility and understanding that they came at different levels.
Right.
And then relevance, like, no, this is why you're doing this. This is why this is connected to that. But like with my boys, they're just amazing young men. Last week we sent our 18-year-old off. He's at Fort Benning, Georgia, for boot camp, basic training, and just understanding like where he started, when he was 6,
wow,
to where he is now, 2 different children, and just looking at that ability, like what's possible. Children that could have been easily given up because they're in the system, because their
normally
parents.
they are given up on too.
Yeah.
And are these black boys?
Yeah, all black boys.
So you got 4 black boys that were in the system, starting from foster care. Usually what happens is you go in the system, and once you in, they ain't getting you back out, right? So what's your secret sauce there? Because that in itself, to be able to raise 4 black male foster kids who are successful, seems like its own success story. And forgive me if I'm wrong, because it may be like, no, this ain't hard. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a world that most of us have lived in, because I think the stigma is that's difficult. So if it's not, and I'm just hyping you up for no reason, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? But in my opinion, and I'm sure probably in the opinion of our listeners, when you say that you adopted 4 foster children that you've raised for 10, 12 years now going off and starting their careers and, still continuing to have success academically, people have to ask, how are you doing it? Like, what was I'm sure you had some moments there where you were like, man, this is tough.
Yeah, I think that it's a lot of emotional things that you have to work through, like we've had to do some things, but
like what? Give me an example.
Well, like, in the traditional sense, like I had a wonderful relationship with my father, who was my rock, essentially. And I could have called my dad at any point in time, and I knew what was going on. I never, went against, I didn't always agree with him, but it was like, there was no other place for me to think about going, or no other person in the world that was my father. With my children, when you have those tough seasons where you're trying to raise young lions and young kings to grow and be the people that they are, and that they were called to be. Sometimes they want to buck against that a little bit, which they should.
Right.
I want to give them the space
rites
to
of
do
passage,
that.
right.
But then it's like, that in the back of their minds, like, I wonder if, my biological parent would do this. And sometimes we would have those discussions where, like, well, I was wondering why my dad didn't,
Right.
stick around, or why my mom did this, or and so those are very tough emotional conversations that you have to have, because in the back of your mind there's someone else there, and you deal with those things. But at the same time, I don't think it's being a superhero or being something super tough, because I had a great father that taught me so much. It's just being a man and being a woman, because I give full credit to my wife, who is my partner in this work, so I wasn't doing it alone. So it was as us working together and figuring it out together, and she was willing and able to be who she is, a strong and amazing woman. Yes. But
Put that in there.
Yeah, make sure you do not edit that out. But just the amazingness of what she did. But as a man, I think that sometimes we look at what we're supposed to do naturally as people, and we say, "Oh, you're a hero," or you're something like that. We're not. We're just doing what we're called to do on this earth, and I'm just using my 60 seconds to do the best I can with my children. So I raised my sons as my dad raised me, to the best of my ability. I made adjustments because it's not the 70s and 80s, and I had a different
you
different
can't beat
child.
your kids no more.
Yeah, you can't do that. Headlocks are illegal. Who does that?
Yeah.
But no, but seriously, like,
can I pluck him in the forehead?
yeah,
one time?
well, you can thump them a little bit, but you can't leave a mark. But you put your hand in front of it. But still,
little things.
little things. I'll teach you the tricks later. It's in my new book, How to Thump Your Kids, but
Without leaving marks.
Exactly. But the reality is, it's like just finding those opportunities, just to like make. With my parents, they told me don't do something, and I just didn't do it because it was my relationship with my parents. With my sons, I would give them an instruction on something, but I felt the need to give them the why.
The why.
And like that, this is why Dad did that.
Consequence.
Yeah, and this is where this leads to. But because adults in so many spaces have lied to them and let them down, I wanted to make sure that I didn't do that. So I wanted to tell them that this is where this is coming from. So I show them the end,
Right.
and then bring them back to where we are in this moment. And so whether it's something that you did wrong, or just made a mistake, a child's mistake, this is where I see this could go if we don't correct this behavior.
Yeah.
And I think that they got a chance to see that. But then when they got a chance to have lived experiences, especially as they got older, it's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm 18 now. And then they lived a little bit of life, and they're like, oh, okay.
Okay, my bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Dad, what was that you were saying?
Yeah. So they come right back.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you say that, and I do believe that there is no uniqueness in that accord. Is like, how do we raise our kids? Because I will tell you, my son is 23 now, same exact challenges. And what's really interesting about it, and they always say that at some point a young man, and I love how you said lions and kings, at some point you're supposed to challenge your parents. It's actually a rite of passage, right? And I can only imagine how that may have been challenging when you're also trying to let them know, you can trust me, I love you. You're not going to get abandoned by sticking up for yourself or what have you. Name one moment where you just found a breakthrough and it almost just broke you down.
I think that with my 22-year-old, he was probably the toughest to raise, because he was this child that brilliant. The kid scored a 27 or whatever ACT, and just like, I just want to see how I would do. Never studied all that
Wow.
that child, but just was not motivated. And I think that it wasn't. I was so hard, and like, okay, you gotta do this, because I was dreaming for him instead of allowing him to have his own dreams, and I wanted to parent him this way. And I think it was a moment for me when I saw him trying to do things that I wanted him to do. Like basketball. I have a love for basketball. I played basketball through college and all those wonderful things. And I saw him trying to do that. And I remember having a conversation with him in the car, and it's just like, hey man, whether you're good at basketball, whether you're not, we're going to bond in some way. just might not be over the playing of basketball. Don't hold yourself to that level of accountability. You don't have to worry about that. But then just as he got older and I see the young man that he is now and the responsibility he's taken, it's like, yeah, those things worked, that we had to do. And he said that you had to be a little tougher on me. I understand. I needed that. But for me, the hurt came in and was like, I was so focused on I had to do things this way. And I always give him the space and the grace to figure it out and let him have those consequences. Because as a parent, any parent, you want to make sure if that child's getting ready to fall, you want to put a pad down for them and all. And with him, I just didn't do that well.
The firstborn is, I feel, I'm the youngest of 5. And I always look at like my older sister, like, man, you had it so tough because you set the standard for everybody else, right? So, and as parents, I have 3. Yeah, it was like, from the first to the third is amazing because the third there was like a diapers commercial one time that showed that like the first child they had like the hand sanitizer and the 2 diaper bags and like the first aid kit and all that stuff, and then by the time the third one comes around they got like a diaper and like a bottle of water, right? Yeah, so that sounds about right. So I want to pivot a little bit. We have a little bit more time. We're here to talk about choice words in the sense of schooling. You've got the Rock Academy starting in Nashville this fall. Is that opening?
So we actually decided to defer a year.
Okay.
We can open in the fall, but one of the things I decided was I want to make sure I open the school that our children deserve, that I'm promising families.
Okay.
And not the school that, we will open them an amazing school, but I want this school for our children to be the right version. And some of the things that we didn't have tight, and it's like, this is not right for our kids. And if our kids have already had adverse experiences in school,
right,
I don't want them to come in and we're starting to fix and build as a person that's turned around schools. I don't want to start off a year turning around the school.
Right. So that's interesting. So, because I would think that there's a responsibility on you you say you're going to open in the fall, you open in the fall. I'm sure parents are like, wait a minute, like, hello, like what's going on? So how did you handle that? How did you make that decision? And what did you do to kind of communicate to people?
It was a tough decision, very tough decision. It's actually very fresh. But we met with those families, and we actually, people on my team, helped them find schools that they can, go to for this year. And then we're making the decisions on what we can do to support them throughout the year. We have facility, have the things that we need. And so we know that we want to make sure that we're helping with tutoring and doing some of those other things, and then explore what options we may have out there futuristically with those families. But the best thing about it was for those families, they just need to know they had another option. Of course, we believe we're the best option for them. We still believe that.
Right.
But the one thing that they appreciated, and I'm thinking about a grandmother in particular, who was like, this was her saving grace. She's in her 70s taking care of her grandson. And she's like, I need to find a school. She found us,
right.
and whatnot. And so we walked her through, someone from my team walked her through and said, hey, these are your school options that you have. And we're going to make the introduction for you.
Oh, that's
and we're
amazing.
going to make these connections. And we're going to do the things so that she knows that she has a support team. And that's what we're going to offer for all of our families, just to make sure they know they have support and be in that space for them. But the overwhelming results from them was like, we understand and we support you, and we hope that we have an opportunity to come next year.
Wow, it sounds like you were listening to them as well.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you've built a community and a network that literally does support you. If you had to share what that work looks like for someone who may be interested in doing the same, what would you tell them? Build
relationships. Go to where the people are. I've always believed that, you can't sit in the office. You can't, do all social media and all those things have their place. But when you go out and you knock on someone's door and you say hello to them and you let them see who you are authentically.
How about that, right?
Yep, it works.
People don't knock on doors anymore, man.
No,
if I knock on my door, I don't even answer. I just go to my ring and be like, what do you want, right?
And we did that. I remember at one point in a 2-week time frame, we had a goal of knocking on 400 doors.
400 doors.
And we got into that zone. I think we wound up doing 460. We had a goal of like how many students we wanted to get to. But yeah, we met a lot of ring cameras.
Yeah.
But we also got a chance to meet a lot of wonderful, amazing people. And even those that said no, they're like, well, good luck to you,
right.
Because,
and I'm going to remember you because you actually came and talked to me.
Yeah.
At that foreign concept, right? That we've forgotten that connection.
And we called their student by name.
Like when
I walked to the door, I came to see Johnny.
Wow.
I did not come to see, do you have a child? I came to see Johnny specifically.
That is so
and so
important.
that was able to help parents.
Yeah. So we're about to wrap up a meeting. I want to thank you so much for being our guest. You have such a wonderful career, and we're going to make sure we share more about your story with others. But if you had to share just what's something that you want people to know about you that they may not know about you?
Wow. I am the biggest fan of children. I know that sounds like corny or whatever because of the work that I do, but like I didn't end up in education. Like this wasn't my choice. Like, oh, I want to go be an educator. That's not what I did. Leaving out of college, I was going to be a lawyer, and I became an educator. But then when I look back over my life, you know, they say often that all things work together. And when we say all things, I really look back even when I was tutoring kids in high school and helping different people learn how to read and all those wonderful things. It was like, oh, I've been an educator all my life. I just didn't know it. And so I have a passion for seeing children learn, and I have a passion for the underdog. And, you know, I think that's where life does its best work, and we get to do what God wants us to do on this earth.
That's beautiful. And in the words of a mentor and a friend and the Oracle himself, Dr. Fuller, he always, well, he doesn't always say, but we always say about him that he stays young. He's I think 85 this year because of the joy of having children around him. And I do believe that there's actually a scientific study that shows that elderly people live longer if they've got kids around them. So, yeah, you tapped into something there.
Thank you. Yeah, I love them. I love being around children. We have to work on adults, but children is so much fun.
They work on them. Yeah, better to work on them now before they become those adults,
yes,
right?
Indeed.
But then you also have to look at adults as find the child in them that
yes,
you
indeed.
can hopefully work with. You know, can't save everybody, but you know, we'll try to work.
We
with
always
some.
find the good in there. There's always good. There's always a little child sitting right there,
It's
waiting
true.
for you to talk to them. You know, and we get to be, as educators, we get the gift and the opportunity to meet that child and bring that child up to the present, and you know, help them and see.
Help them. So another thing that we often do, and we've been doing this now, it's become our tradition. The title of our podcast is Choice Words. And it's basically a play on, like, you know, I got some words for you. I got some choice words for you, you know. But it can also just be school choice words, right? Like, what is it that brings you into this work? What are the choice words that if someone came to Mr. White and was like, what wisdom or what choice words could you impart on somebody?
And then the words of Jesse Jackson, I guess, from my childhood, like, you are somebody, you're worthy.
Somebody. You're worthy.
Yeah, and you belong right here.
You're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take that. You want to look in the camera and say that?
Yes.
Just say, I'm Ahmed White. You are somebody.
Yes.
No.
I am Ahmed White, and you are somebody, and you are worthy, and you belong right here. And this is your time. Take it.
Well, I'm excited about the Rock Academy in Nashville starting next year. Really proud of the work that you're doing. And if people wanted to follow you or find anything more about you, where could they get information about you?
Oh, you can follow us on Instagram and all the socials on My Rock Academy.
My Rock Academy. All right. Well, Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This is awesome.
This is another episode of Choice Words brought to you by Freedom to Choose Schools. Stay tuned and hear more from us as we explore more time in New Orleans with our live and in-person guests. Thanks for joining us.